Great War, great parties, Great Gatsby, it's Art Deco, the style that said, the future is glamorous. Hello everyone, my name is Kaz Rowe, and I'm so excited to be this season's host of A Style is Born. I'm a cartoonist and illustrator, and I have my own channel where I teach about weird and or underrepresented history. I love a good origin story, which is how I became a fan of this show. In Season 1, I got to learn about the histories of iconic design styles from fellow bookworm and YouTuber Ariel Bissett.
Let's talk about chairs.
And in Season 2, I'm honored to continue the good work. This is A Style is Born, a show where we explore the history behind some of the most iconic design styles. I recently moved back to Chicago, where I went to college, and this city is well known for being a historical hub for architecture and design, and also as an Art Deco metropolis. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but for now, what is Art Deco? Probably jazz, flappers, the Great Gatsby. That was what drew me to Art Deco initially, in addition to being surrounded by it in Chicago. I love the jazz age, and it's hard not to be drawn to the glitz and glamour of the styles born out of the 1920s nightlife. But there's much more to Art Deco than meets the eye. Art Deco sits very generally in two different overlapping camps, that of the American streamlined machine-esque and modernist style of the late 20s and 30s, and of the extremely colorful and geometric French style that arose after World War I. Not only was there no one precise type of look to Art Deco, but there wasn't one ideology behind it either. Art Deco encapsulated a sense of joy, freedom, glamour, fun, and excitement, but it also represented a sense of mechanical modernity. Whichever direction you went with it though, one thing could be agreed upon with what Art Deco meant. In the years following a decade of death and destruction and plague, the style of the 20s and 30s represented people's endeavor to reclaim the future in a brand new image. This can be seen very poignantly in 1920s cinema, but the dark underbelly of this future-forward creative environment was embodied in adjacent movements like German Expressionism. Fritz Lang's Metropolis, one of the most famous German expressionists in Art Deco films of all time, is a prime visual example of this struggle between the joy of modernity and the fear of it as embodied by Art Deco architecture and design principles. The city landscape with its towering skyscrapers and mechanical underbelly both brought society into the future and also revealed people's fear of the changes happening around them. But everyone could agree that as exciting as the age of the machine was, it was equally as terrifying. Stronger than terror, though, is hope. Historian Marilyn F. Friedman notes that the Art Deco design style incorporated elements that included women in public life and nightlife like never before. Feminine freedom ran alongside a newly emerging cocktail culture. As Maddie Lederman writes, the 19th Amendment giving women the right to vote passed on August 16, 1920, and, with one foot on the brass rail and a cigarette in hand, women asserted themselves by ordering their cocktail of choice. You can see this influence seeping into home design as various cocktail shakers took on the shape of teapots and other creative imitations. Another example of Art Deco design's hopeful embrace of a liberated nightlife era coincides with the spread of jazz music and consequently the stylish treatment of the home radio. In the US, the Harlem Renaissance began to pick up steam and heavily influence music. Soon enough, the music of Black artists in America made its way around the world, ushering in the Jazz Age. The marriage of jazz music and Art Deco design in the home was officiated by the widespread introduction of the home radio. Now more than just a hunky piece of electronic broadcasting equipment, it was transformed into a stylish addition to the home. But history never moves in a steady upward line, and the roaring high highs of the 20s were about to meet the great low lows of the 30s when the stock market crashed in 1929. The Great Depression not only impacted every aspect of people's daily lives, it impacted the Art Deco design style too. Originating as a luxury style, Art Deco transformed with the times as people's design sensibilities were simplified in times of struggle, and the flamboyant excess of this design began to seem uncouth. Society said, do less. People eagerly embraced warmer, organic designs as they headed into the 40s, still modern but with traditional influence. You might have heard of it. It's called mid-century modern. Ariel talked about this style in the very first episode of A Style is Born, so definitely go check that one out. So now that we've gotten the historical and cultural context of the time period that gave us Art Deco, let's take a closer look at the actual visual elements of this design style, its shapes, its materials, and its international influences. A lot of aspects of the Art Deco style didn't just come out of nowhere. In fact, they came from some pretty specific places, ancient civilizations. Art Deco designs often featured ancient Egyptian elements as society's already present interest in the civilization exploded when King Tut's tomb was discovered in 1922. After that, hieroglyphics, decorative motifs, temple structures, and embellishments found their way into Western design, fashion, and architecture. Art Deco shapes and patterns were geometric and sleek, often featuring intricate lines, zigzags, and elongated curves. From furniture to the actual architecture of a room, Art Deco often featured materials like stainless steel and chrome, bakelite plastic, and glass. Woods were heavily lacquered, and marble polished off this luxurious look. For a style that was all about flash, color choice was essential. From then to now, Art Deco was all about pairing metallic colors with rich jewel tones, variations of blue, yellow, red, purple, and green. And of course, you can't forget about the grandiose animal forms and the demigod-like human figures. You can see the grandness of Art Deco's elements exemplified in surviving examples like the Rookery here in Chicago with its stunning sunlit lobby space, or the lobby of One LaSalle with perfect examples of Art Deco elevators and lights, or Cafe Deco off the Diversey stop. And of course in old movie theaters and concert halls all over the world like Radio City Music Hall in New York City and the Paramount Theater in Oakland, California. In fact, the golden age of Hollywood emerged just as the Art Deco movement spread across the US. It's no wonder that theater architects and designers took direction from this style. As for Art Deco in the home, the designs of Pierre Chareau, Émile Jacques Rouman, Maurice Dufresne, Joseph Urban, Ilonka Karaz, and many more are good indications of how these design trends made their way into home interiors. One of the most popular enduring Art Deco furniture styles was known as waterfall furniture, which had rounded, dropping edges and frequently had round mirrors with an etched trim. And of course, glass and bakelite paneled lighting fixtures that were introduced in this time just as electric bulbs were optimized for home use. Hanging ceiling lights, lamps, and sconces such as these are iconic to the Art Deco legacy, with intricate geometric shapes and ornate detailing. So obviously, a style this great never stays dead for long. Possibly the most notable revival to Art Deco that you may be familiar with was Memphis style of the 1980s. The Memphis group, active from 1980 to 1987, was an Italian design and architecture group that created bombastically postmodern home decor and furniture in bright plastic colors and zany abstract shapes. Bertrand Pellegrin described Memphis style in an SFGate article as a shotgun wedding between Bauhaus and Fisher-Price, which I feel like is wholly accurate, and I say that with love. Memphis design certainly had new focus colors and a distinctly pop art vibe, but the roots in Art Deco are impossible to miss. Upholstery was adorned with geometric shapes, and various household objects and furniture were outlined with arching silver metal frames, and the same old overlapping parallel lines, bold patterns, and color-blocked shapes. The 80s continued the trend of drawing inspiration from Art Deco as Memphis gained a cult following, serving as the backdrop to popular shows like Miami Vice and Saved by the Bell, and the 1983 blockbuster Scarface, which put a spotlight on the style in various inspired locations such as the South Beach Art Deco district in Miami. The 80s in general embodied a reflection for the roaring 20s thirst for pleasure, hedonism, and fun, looking hopefully once again towards a new era of progress, but this time with bigger hair and shoulders. Memphis interior design is reviving again these days, but that's for another episode. Today, it seems that most interest in Art Deco interior design stems not from wanting to bring over-the-top glitz, grandeur, and drama into a space, but rather a desire for incorporating those smaller, eye-catching accents that add just a touch of pizzazz to a room. A statement mirror, a velvet love seat, a fluted table lamp, a geometric wallpaper. Heck, even a snazzy bar cart. Design details, shapes, and colors that quietly evoke a jazzier time. So, are we due for a true Art Deco resurgence? I suppose that remains to be seen, but one thing remains true. Art Deco design was the life of the party. Thank you for learning with me about the history of Art Deco, a style that is notoriously hard to pin down. Let me know in the comments which you like better, OG Art Deco or Memphis. Have you incorporated elements of this into your own home? Head on over to Wayfair to explore Art Deco style yourself, and thanks for joining me for A Style is Born.